So just a little overview from the horse show. The results. So with Hollywood, which is my gelding that stays with High Point, and our goal is like the Western Riding, the trail. So at this horse show, we mainly focus on the Western Riding because with the weather and the footing, and we want to take care of our old man, and we don't want to put him in any like situations where the footing isn't good for him, and trail's hard enough already. And so we decided to just focus on the Western Riding at this show because I'm not trying to qualify for the World Show in the trail like I am the Western Riding, since I'm only doing level 1 trail. So we still did practices a couple of times, but we just didn't like practice hard enough and prepare hard enough to feel comfortable to show, if that makes sense. Anyway, so in the Western Riding, we were circuit champions in the level 1 amateur. And then we were like, I think a couple of times I got like 6th and 8th and 10th. And, I was kind of like middle of the pack in the amateur Western Riding. So there was like, I think 28 in the amateur Western Riding. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 22, something like that. So I was always kind of like middle of the pack, maybe just a hair above middle of the pack, which I'm happy with. But we had like each time I showed in the amateur, we had a couple of bobbles, like mistakes or hitting the log or, something like that gave me penalties enough that was like, definitely knocked me down. So we still made improvements, but there were some things to work on. So that was Hollywood. So we still came out with a circuit championship. And then with Kennedy in the Western Pleasure, I was circuit champion in the level 1 amateur Western Pleasure, in the level 2 amateur Western Pleasure, and then we still placed really well in the level 3. So leveling in AQHA is always confusing to me. So level 1 is usually its own class, like it has its own class dedicated to level 1 riders. So riders in that class cannot have achieved 25 points or more, I believe. In the level 2 and level 3, unless it's like the World Show, usually it runs together, like it runs concurrently, and then they place it out, level 2 riders and level 3. So like if you enter yourself as a level 2 rider, you can't place in the level 3. It's really weird. And so they like say the level 3 placings first, and they'll be like, and second place went to level 2, but they won't say who it is until they place the level 2 riders, and then you have to kind of like do the math in your head. It's not my favorite. But anyway, I was in the level 2. And so had I been in the level 3, I think my highest placing would have been like 4th in a really steep pen of horses. So I was really happy with that. And we were, probably like every single ride that we did, we got better. So really excited about that. Anytime that Stephanie showed her, she schooled her, so there was no placings there with Stephanie and Kennedy. And then with Denver, in the 5 and over maturity non-pro class that I showed Denver in, there was 16 horses and we were 3rd overall, which like we had some pretty significant things to work on. So it's not like we went in there and we're like, this is the best ride I could have ever had. We went in there and we're like, that was good, but you could improve on pretty much everything that you did. And so that was very good to know that even with a ride that could use a lot of work, we were still able to achieve 3rd. So I was very happy with that. And then Aaron and Denver, both days that they showed the Western Riding, they had one go that was good and one go that was schooled. And in the goes that were good, I think he got like 2nd and 3rd out of a pretty substantial amount of horses. So it was a very good show.